Hey view riders, and thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'm going to discuss which is best for a Sat Nav solution for your motorbike. Is it a phone? Is it a dedicated Sat Nav? Or is it the Beeline? So stay with me and we'll attempt to work out which is best. But first, if you wouldn't mind liking or unliking the video, please, and if you wouldn't mind giving the channel a subscribe, all helps me grow it and bring you more content. And so let's have a little discussion about Sat Nav then. So I'm going to go through the pros and cons of each at first. So we'll start off with the Tomtom, the Sat Nav. I mean, I've had Garmin in the past and didn't get on with that at all. I didn't like the mapping at all, but preferred Tomtom. So Tomtom is on my preferred Sat Nav solution. So I'm going to head to St Neots. So I've already programmed the over to you, but I'll just show you. So enter it in on the keyboard. It is a bit slow. This is an older model. So we want to ride. You can on the Tomtom, you can set it to thrilling route. You can you've got 3 levels of twistiness and 3 levels of highness, altitude. There you go. So yeah, I mean, the pros of the Tomtom, obviously you can connect it to your bike battery and forget about it. So mine's a switch live, so it comes on with the ignition. You can lock it on the bike and forget it if you've got a device like that. That's the Tomtom original locking system, so that locks on. That you can't open that. Can't take that off. Don't have to worry about it overheating in the sun. Easier to read in the sunlight as well, which helps. It's they're sturdier and more resistant to vibrations than phones. You can also use most of them with gloves as well. The cons, obviously, it's a bit slow. I've already touched upon that, and if you're worried about security, if you're parking somewhere a bit dodgy, then yeah, you're gonna have to keep taking it off. So obviously, you know, well, you don't have to lock it on there, but you know, it means unlocking that and taking it off. But this Sat Nav is so old and so cranky that I wouldn't be bothered anymore, to be honest. You also have to remember to update them constantly as well. And if you're using the battery alone, then yeah, I think you've got about 4 hours maximum. On the Tomtoms as well, you don't have the most reliable connection with iPhones. That's something worth bearing in mind. But yeah, that's about it for the Tomtom. As I said, you can set it to choose a thrilling route. You can plan a thrill, and you've got different levels of like twistiness, twisty roads and altitude that you can choose. So, and it usually does pretty good at finding some good roads. So that's the Tomtom. What about the phone? So obviously, let's go through the pros again. So we've all got a phone, haven't we? So everyone's got one, so they are convenient. It's one less thing, one less gadget that you have to have on the bike, and one less gadget that you have to keep updated and look after. So yeah, it removes the need for the standalone Sat Nav. Obviously faster to load up, especially than this old Tomtom. I don't know what the new ones are like. I should imagine they're faster. Your map's always updated, obviously, and yeah, I mean, it's you can have all sorts of different Sat Nav apps. I mean, I've got Beeline Moto, which I'm planning on doing a review at some point. I use Waze. I've got Google Maps on there, and they all serve different purposes, to be honest, which is why I have so many. Because I drive a lot for a living as well, so I use Waze mostly for that. But yeah, they're all pretty pretty relevant to each job that I want them to do. So in terms of the cons though, obviously you have to take your gloves off to operate a phone. There's no getting away from that. Some modern gloves have got pads on it now that supposedly work touch screens, but I've never found them to work. One big problem, not so much a problem in England, although it might be today, and maybe not, but there is a risk of them overheating in the sun, and you getting a display on your screen that says it can't be used anymore as it's overheating, and you've got to cool it down before it will work again. So that's one issue to think of, which is probably going to be more of an issue if you're touring, or if you live in somewhere really hot like Spain or southern France. So yeah, that is a bit of an issue. Also you got the issue of putting it in and out of the holder. I mean, I have had a quad lock prior to this ultimate add-ons system. The quad lock is really good, but it did cause an issue with the camera on my previous phone, which is why I moved away from it. Although you can now get a vibration dampener for it, so that issue should be solved. But yeah, the quad lock is really easy. Just put it onto the mount, twist it, push it in, twist it, and it locks. Yeah, great system. But the only problem with it is you have to have a dedicated quad lock case for it. That's one thing worth bearing in mind. Although with the ultimate add-ons, you can't have a case at all, because it will only fit in without a case, unless you get, well, I don't know if the generic size cases would take a phone with a case as well. I don't know, but I've got the iPhone 12 Pro, and I have to take the case off to fit it in this case. But yeah, that's a small price to pay. You have got space there for the charging cable to go through, and keep it waterproof. So yeah, where were we? Yeah, so obviously you've got that small risk of vibration damage, is worth bearing in mind. It can also be harder to read in direct sunlight, I find, but that's probably because I usually have them in dark mode. If you've got it in light mode like that, then it's probably not so much of an issue. And obviously you need to rely on a data network, really. So with the Tomtom app, I believe you can download maps so they're on your phone, so you don't have to rely on your network so much. So yeah, that's the phone pretty much done. What about the Beeline? So the pros and cons for the Beeline. So it's small and it looks good. It's easy to take on and off. It just twists. Well, basically like that. I've got the elastic holder on here, so I'm not gonna bother taking that off, but you get the idea. Just literally twists off and put it off. Obviously it's clear to read, as you can see there. Even in sunlight you have no issues seeing the display. The only downsides are that this isn't a Sat Nav. Well, it is, but it really is the most basic of Sat Navs you can get. You have to keep looking at it to get your next direction. You're not getting any voice instructions or anything. You just have to look at where the arrow's pointing, and that's your distance there. See, it's upside down, but you've got 0.6 miles to your next turn. So yeah, you can also have it in arrow mode, so it points towards the direction as the crow flies. So that's another option as well. But yeah, the Beeline's a good bit of kit, but not if you want to do some decent travelling and don't want to end up getting lost, because you're gonna have to keep looking at that display, and also it's easy to misread it as well, I've found. But yeah, if you're just a casual biker and you just want something that looks neat on the bike, and it's not got too many frills, and yeah, it's fine. But if you're going to be doing long distances, then yeah, probably stick to either the Sat Nav or the phone. So yeah, let's see how they work in practice then. Okay, so let's go over the practicalities of all these Sat Nav options in practice. So this isn't scripted. I'm just going to be telling you as it is as I'm riding. So I'm hoping the Tomtom is clear enough there, because it's not very bright, but it is clearly visible. And I think that screen on the phone is better now. And obviously the Beeline is clearly displayed. So in practice, yeah, I mean, my favourite is still the Tomtom display. You can get the Tomtom app on the phone as well, which I have got, but I prefer Waze on the phone. But for standalone Sat Nav, I'll take the Tomtom. The Beeline, again, I'm having to look at that screen, look at the display, and keeping on the distance to the next event, next turn, roundabout. On the Waze app, I've got a clear display of my speed and what the speed limit is. On the Tomtom, for some reason it's not got the speed limit for this road, but it's showing my speed, and both showing the same, so they both seem accurate. 40 miles an hour equates to 43 on my dash, which is about right. The speedos overread a bit. On the Tomtom, I've got a clear display, so it usually tells you there if there's any cameras on the way, speed cameras, petrol stations or stuff like that. You don't get that with Waze though, that's the only problem. Obviously one of the big problems with the Beeline as well is you don't get any speed camera warnings or anything, so that's one thing to be aware of. Waze gives you speed camera warnings if you're exceeding the speed limit at the time. Tomtom gives you a warning whether you're exceeding the speed limit or not, so that's my preferred system, but you can't get Waze to do that, unfortunately. So in terms of mapping, as I said, the Tomtom is my personal clear favourite, but everybody is different. But that Waze is doing a good job. And again, the Beeline, I'm having to keep an eye on the display. I'm really hoping you can see that Tomtom display like this. It isn't as bright as the Waze app. So we're coming into a 20 mile an hour zone now. Let's see how quickly they update. So Waze is taking. Waze says it's 30. Which is unusual because Waze is normally pretty accurate on speed limits. And Tomtom's still got no speed display. So I haven't got the sound alerts on, but I've got the alerts, but I haven't got the directions on. But they're both very clear. Got no complaints with either Waze or Tomtom. So now Tomtom is showing the speed limit 60. Good thing with Waze as well is when you start to exceed the speed limit, the your actual speed display goes red, so you get a good indication at a quick glance if you're being naughty or not. So I'm hoping you might see now what I mean by the sun reflecting on that ultimate add-ons case. It's not too bad at the minute, but that is one issue I found with that. You don't get that with the Tomtom. Be a bit naughty again, and same on the Tomtom, it does come up in red. So both get good marks in that respect. I found the warnings for speed cameras are fairly accurate, and obviously you can report on Tomtom if you just press that camera button if there's a speed camera, or if there's a mobile camera, if there's a speed camera van or something, you just press that button. And Waze is a bit more complicated though. I mean, I'm not going to get into that now, but obviously it won't work with the gloves, but you have to press that button and you've got loads of different options to you can alert of police on the road, you can alert of potholes, accidents and stuff like that. It's all very well, but that is extremely distracting in practice, so I'm not too keen on that. I will do it, I mean, if there's something particularly dangerous, then I will, obviously not on a bike because you can't do it, but if I'm in a car or in my work van, if it's something particularly dangerous, I will not put it on there, but otherwise I don't touch it. So the Beeline is showing me 1.1 miles until the next event. Yeah, so again, looking at the display on the Beeline, got 0.3 miles to the next event, which I think is just it's just following the road anyway, so you don't really need it, as you can see by Waze and Tomtom telling you just straight on. You get a clear idea on the Tomtom of what these bends are like as well. That's why I find the Tomtom is the best mapping to read at a glance. I mean, it should be. They've been doing Sat Navs for years, haven't they? So there's a reason they do so well at them. So the only thing I find in practice is that sometimes the connection with my phone's been a bit patchy, and I hear that's quite common on the newer Tomtoms, but I don't know if that's been sorted by now. But I do know of at least one friend who had that problem. One good thing on Waze is you can change the display. The car, you can change it to a motorbike, which is quite neat. So I think I can't think of much else I've got to cover really on all these options. Well, you can see on the Beeline now, so it's telling me first exit at the roundabout in 6.3 miles. So there you get a bit of an idea of how that works. Again, I've done a separate review on the Beeline. I've done a couple of updates. So if you go through my previous videos, you'll find them and what I think of the Beeline. So I think that pretty much rounds up my impressions of all these sat navs, all these options. So what is, when I've ridden a lot of miles over the years, and I've pretty much always had sat navs or a phone attached to the bike for directions, and even paper maps at one point. So I had to guess I've put in about 12,000–14,000 miles a year for the past trying to think, 2022 aren't we, so for the past 12 years at least, probably longer than that, probably about 14. So I consider myself to have extensive knowledge of all these options, and my conclusions are the best option overall is a dedicated sat nav. Lovely street triple RS. Yeah, the dedicated sat nav beats everything, especially one like this. You can just fit and forget. I mean, this is so old, this one, but I've left it on the bike for a long time, several years now, and it owes me nothing, so I keep expecting it to get stolen, but it's still there when I return to the bike. Obviously if you brought a newer one, then yeah, you might not be so carefree about it. Yeah, so my conclusions are a dedicated sat nav is best. However, this one is now on its last legs, and will I be replacing it? No, I'm going to go with a phone for the time being. As I said earlier, you know, it's one less gadget to worry about, one less gadget to maintain, one less gadget to update. The only issue I'm likely to have is when I go on tour somewhere warm and overheating of the phone, but we'll see how we get on with that, and might have an update. The Beeline it's good for my speed twin, put it that way, just to take it easy, to set it to arrow mode, so you just follow the direction you want of travel you want to go into, you want to go towards. Yeah, better in arrow mode, and just gently take it easy. But yeah, for dedicated touring, yeah, it's not really any good unless you've got plenty of time each day. So that's pretty much sums up my conclusions on what is the best navigation option on your motorbike. I'll be interested to know what other people think. If you agree with me, if you think I'm talking rubbish, then let me know in the comments what you think. Thanks for riding with me, riders, and see you on the next one.